how I clean my rods and reels after I've been in the salt with them. I try to rinse them off at the end of the day, and then it did rain out a few times, so that helps. But when I get back home, I like to go right through them and clean them up. I do use them in the fresh water as well, and that helps. But in the meantime, I'm going to give them a rinse. And this is a custom rod that I built a few years ago, so I want to take care of it. The cleaning procedure for that is, for me, I've been doing this for years now, and I've had these reels hold up. Some of these reels are, at least 5 years old, keeping them still functional, and haven't had to replace like a line roller or a handle bearing. What I do is start off by just loosening the drag up. Make sure there's a little play in it, it's loosened up. Any salt that gets in and around the drag stack or under it, or any of the bearings, this line roller bearing is critical and sensitive. So sand or salt or anything like that, especially left sitting in there, is not going to help them. And the handle too can be an issue if you don't spin that out with water. So what I do is I got some soapy water here, warm, and give them a quick dunk or two or three. Shake them out. I get the drag loose, so I just pull the line out, and that just kind of runs any salt or sand, grit that might be in there, dust. So pull it out, and then just kind of try to spin off the residual water. And twirl the handle, get that line roller like that, and do the same thing one more time. And a good swish. I have to completely submerge it, shake it out, upside down, right side up, pull the line out. And even when the line's out, once you pull out some line, you can give it even another dunk and get the salt out of the line. Not a bad idea. Okay. Give it the taste test. No salt, just soapy water. Wind that out, kind of fast, spin it out. Handle a good twirl. And just a quick rinse. Get under the reel seat. Without taking the reel off the handle, you can do that too, it's probably recommended. But the guides on the rod, seen those rust. Salt gets underneath the wrap, between the wrap and the or right at the junction of where the guide goes into the wrap. It's a good place for stuff to build up and sit there. And then you let your rod sit for a few months in the wintertime, go to pick it up in the spring and wonder why that's rusty. So that, shake it out. You can give it one more spin out, shake the water out. Can't always pick your days, but it just happens to be actually sunny, and that's best. And get this stuff to dry out. And then I completely loosen the drag stack, pull off the spool, and just let it sit here in the sun and dry out. Get the spool shaft completely extended would be ideal. And just let that sit out in the sun. I've got two of these Shimano Sustains. This is a 3. This is an older Nasky. Had this for some years now, and still runs strong. Ran that in the salt, and I'm doing the same thing. So there's three down, 1 to go. I'll do it one more time. It's another custom rod, So I'm going to take care of this stuff. Took a while to build them and get them set up, so try to protect the investment, so to speak. We'll go over the kind of oils that I use, because I think that's important too. In different places I use different oils. Just let it air dry, then we'll get to oiling. So on the external parts of the reel, I use a lighter oil, like I said, this PB Blaster or WD-40, a lighter oil. It doesn't seem to attract as much grit and dirt and things like that. Then on the inside of the reel, I'm going to show you what I got here for the other products that I use. So Deep Creep is a good one for storage or between fishing trips. It's a little bit slightly heavier oil, but it stays in the, seems to stick and stay in there better. Whereas the WD, you gotta, or the PB Blaster, you have to apply it every day, which I do when I'm out in the salt. But what it's gonna sit in the basement, semi-moist environment, spray it with Deep Creep. Use the Hopey's gun oil on the spool shaft. That's what's exposed when you take the spool off. That spool shaft right there, and it's just 1 drop of Hopey's. Now that's a heavier oil, and it's got really good staying power, but it also will attract dirt and grime and grit, sand. So the thing is that also is protected by the spool when it's on there. But there again, you don't use much. It's just 1 drop. I found that if you use more than 1 drop, the clutch inside will slip, and it'll take a while for it to come back into it. So I learned to put 1 drop in there, and before I put any oil on that, because that's where I start, because we already have the spool off, because we just did our rinse and let them air dry. So they're nice and dry now. They sat out in the sun for a couple of hours, so and they've been spun out, so I know it's nice and dry. And what I'm going to do now is, I guess I should put this camera on my head, and it's good to wind the handle so that the spool is completely out for this. That way you can get any grime that is on the spool shaft, and it doesn't look like there's much actually on that part of it. On the upper part of it, yeah, just a little teeny bit. So we've been keeping after it. But, put 1 drop on there, and then actually take the corner of the paper towel and bleed any off that's excess, like so. Slightly touch that and just make sure there's not too much on there. Like I said, if you have too much on there, wipe some on the end of it here, it will make the clutch slip. All right, I'll put the spool back on. That part's done on this reel. I don't go any deeper than that until winter time, if I feel like I need to. If they've maybe every other year, I'll take them apart, open them up, and then that's where I use the Lucas oil stabilizer. It's a real thick oil, even though it's grease that's already existing in there. This, just a drop or 2 of this in there, just kind of revitalizes it, I find. But for now, we're just going to stick with this process here. I learned over the years to oil that spool shaft with a drop of the Hopey's. That seems to work. And there again, maybe once or twice a year if you're not running it in the salt. But if you run it in the salt, I do it right after that, and then it's good for the rest of the year. So I start off doing it in the springtime, and then every time after the salt. All right, so we'll move on now to the bearings. There's a bearing in the handle right here. There's a juncture, and this Deep Creep kind of bubbles up. Seems to get it right in there. And I hold it vertical on its side and spin that in. Wipe off the excess. That's good. Move on to the next one, and that would be any of these moving parts here. So any of these places where there's a bushing or a bearing, you need to spray a little in there, a little in there, and work that bale back and forth a few times. Work it in. Wipe off the excess. In the process, just gonna give it a cleaning up. See how there's a bunch of dirt or grime in there. Get that out of there. A little bit under there. And just basically kind of just get the oil off the outside of it, because the oil will attract dirt. This stuff is light enough, and this is even lighter for when you're out on the road, and it's not going to sit for a while. This actually evaporates fast enough for daily use, and this I find is good if you're going to let it sit for a little bit. It will evaporate off of there eventually and not draw dirt and sand and these kinds of things. So we got the hinges, we got the handle. So the only other thing right now out here that you usually get is the line roller. Again, let it bubble in there. Just wipe off the excess and you should be good to go. The other place that I find that you can get corrosion is right in the reel seat, and this is a metal reel seat here, so it's not a bad idea to just spray it in there for now and wipe it off. And this thing is still buttery smooth. As you can see, the handle turning without even turning it. And that's 3 seasons old. It's still as smooth and as good as it was when I first got it. No noise. And that's that. And I'll just continue and do the same procedure to all the rest of these. And that's how I keep them running. Seems to work. Hope that helps. Yeah, I'm on the pen reel cleaning and oiling it up, and of course the first thing we do is wipe the spool shaft off when we're doing the spool shaft. And the pen that I dropped in the water, actually I fell in the water. I was fishing at night, some jetty rocks, and yeah, I slipped on a rock, and the rod went flying in the water. And by the time I kind of got myself back together and realized my rod was in the water, yeah, some minutes went by, maybe 5 minutes, and so it was in the saltwater current. So it definitely got some sand. There's some sand on there, just some dirty oil, and some schmutz from going into the drink. So I'm cleaning that off, and we'll put a drop of Hopes on there, or Hoppies gun oil number 9, 1 drop. Do our handle, line roller, and bale bushings. And last but not least, the little nasty reel, nasty little nasky. So you get to the top of the spool stroke. Get to the top of the spool stroke. Clean off any of this dirty oil and grit, grime, especially there. 1 drop of Hopey's oil. You can hit the metal. There we go. Yeah, once I understood the concept that metal loves oil. There again, in this particular spot, you don't want to wind in too much, because there is an anti-reverse clutch behind this little plate. You don't want that to slip, so don't put too much. You can always wipe a little bit, dab it, and bale joints work it in. The handle. Like that bubbling action that the Deep Creep has. Seems to work in there good. And hold it vertical. Wipe it off so you don't spray yourself with it a little bit. And give it a twirl. Spin it right in there. Good. Wipe off the excess. And then the last thing is the line roller. Rest it in there. Soak in. Put the spool back on, and then I'll pull the line through it a few times to roll that line roller oil right in there. And that completes the cleanup. Took me about 45 minutes with all the water spraying and soaking and oiling, taking them apart, spinning them out. But that's how I get it to last as long as I do. And there you have it. Maintain them so that they keep going. They're all been running for years, and we want to keep it that way. I don't want to spend hundreds of dollars on reels every year. I'm sure you don't either. But if you let them set, I found, and not take care of them like that, you will end up replacing them sooner than you have to.